Hey everyone, I'm here live with Cancer Smiles and Sarcasm. It looks like everyone can hear me, I hope. So hopefully we get some joiners here. I'm on TikTok. I'm also a podcast, right? So I am a ragdoll warrior. Why am I the ragdoll warrior? Well, I'm not allowed to show my breast on TikTok. My last time I grasped at them, they kicked me off immediately and then turned me down for several I think it was like a week and a half I wasn't allowed to be on TikTok. So, yeah, so I am certainly not gonna do that again. It's kinda crazy, right? You're talking about breast cancer and talking about reconstructive surgery, but yet you are not allowed to touch your breast, even though they're really not breast. I mean, really, they're not breast. So, yeah, I just real quick, since this is my first live show, I wanted to tell everyone that I am a breast cancer patient. Yeah, so I started with stage 3 in 2023, and, then I well, let's just start with that. So 2023, I started with breast cancer. It was just, a lump in my breast, got my breast removed, and went through chemo and radiation and all that great, lovely stuff, and then I was done, right? 2 months later, I was cancer-free. Woohoo! But yeah, May of 2025 when I went to go in to get my second reconstructive surgery because the first one, it's no bueno, really. I mean, it's good enough, like, kinda looks like I have breast, but yeah, no bueno. It was 12.5 hour surgery, and it was meant to have a second round. So, yeah, still working on the second round, not sure if I can do it now, but anyways, I was scheduled for that, and so that was April 2025, and then I was just having this hard time breathing. I at that time, I just started kind of our ranch. We had donkeys and mules and chickens, and so I was taking the dogs for the walks, 1 hour walks, and I was just man, I was really struggling to breathe, just struggling. And I started getting this cough. And so I contacted my surgeon. I said, "Hey, this is what's going on. I'm really concerned." And she said, "Well, are you breathing?" "Well, yeah, I'm breathing, ma'am. I'll breathe harder." Yeah, I'm breathing." So, yeah. So, anyways, went on for a while. It just got worse and worse and worse. I got an X-ray, and in that X-ray, they found that I had some fluid in my lungs, and unfortunately, that wasn't enough, right? So, that was April. So, then I went to my oncologist. She said, "Go see a pulmonologist." I went to the pulmonologist. He says, "I don't think it's cancer. Let's treat you for asthma." Anyways, long story short, they postponed everything, and I went into the ER eventually and was having a hell of a time breathing, is I mean, coughing. I mean, I couldn't even carry on a conversation. It was really bad. And with that, they immediately admitted me, sent me in for an MRI. My lungs, so the cavity of my lungs were filled with fluid. And that is sure as shit a sign of cancer. So, yep, breast cancer came back. Since I didn't have any breasts anymore, it came back into the lungs and the bones. And so that day, they told me that I had stage 4 cancer. Yes, that is a death sentence, my friends. Stage 4 cancer, at least as far as breast cancer patients are concerned, is a death sentence, right? It's treatable, it's not curable. And there are certainly people who are living their lives without any signs of the disease, right? They get on medication and that medication works. And so they're living their lives that way, but they still know that, it's bound to come back, right? So the stats are that somebody with metastatic breast cancer, again, that means that the breast cancer has now moved on to some other place in your body. In my case, it was the bones and the lungs, means that so now that it has moved back, it is still breast cancer. And so it means that eventually we're going to get on meds and eventually the cancer is going to mutate or the meds are going to stop working or something. And so we're going to go through alternate lines of drugs. The stats say, sorry, and I'm kinda, I got my chemo brain and my menopause brain. So the stats say that 32% of people with metastatic breast cancer will live longer than 5 years. The rest of us are gonna die within 5 years. I've had mine since May, well, really of April of 2025, so it gives me a little bit more than 4 years right now. And I'm a first line of treatment, which is nice. And then, and I get blood testing every 3 weeks, and I'm on drugs. I don't go to chemo, but I do take oral drugs. And then everything mine is estrogen positive. So everything that I do is meant to remove the estrogen from my body because that's what the cancer feeds on. No, folks, it's not sugar. My cancer feeds on estrogen, okay? It's estrogen positive cancer. So all the estrogen floating around and got all this little cancer, and this is like, I love that estrogen. So it's feeding on the cancer. Yeah. So I take all the meds that are supposed to completely make my body estrogen free. So that's what I do. I do it religiously. I get to go 3 weeks on and then 1 week off of the strongest drug because it really does a toll on my body, as pretty much all cancer medications do, right? Because they're treating you. They're killing one thing at the expense of all the others, like my liver, my kidneys, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, so I'm doing that, but eventually my cancer, the tumors apparently will they're kind of mutate, right? They'll get used to this drug and then they'll start finding a way in. So, I kind of compare it to my deodorant, right? Eventually, it just stops working. I don't know why that is. It just stops working. Anyways, so I'm 24/7 oxygen because I live at 7,000 feet. If I get below 7,000 feet, I usually don't need the oxygen all the time. Below 3,000 feet, I don't need it pretty much unless I'm exercising, which I don't do because it still hurts to breathe. And when I first started, I had 2 catheters in my back. Now I just have 1. So that means that I'm draining my lungs daily or every other day of fluid so that my lungs don't get squished up by fluids. Anyways, so that's my status, stage 4 breast cancer patient. And so today, though, my purpose of going live is to talk about shit that we just generally deal with on a regular basis. I don't have any live engagement yet, Podbean or my podcast, but I certainly do appreciate all of you on TikTok that are joining me live right now. But so I thought there was some things that we certainly could relate to, right? And shit that we deal with as cancer warriors or as supports on a daily basis. And one of those things, at least especially for me, I've gone through menopause multiple times because when I have estrogen positive breast cancer, right, and they remove that from me, then I have to go through menopause. Not to mention I'm in my 40s. So I don't know how many of the listeners out there are dealing with that. But so I've gone through chemically induced menopause. Then in January, I just got my ovaries removed, my fallopian tubes removed. So now I'm going through, I guess, general menopause, I guess, even though it was surgery induced. So, yeah, thanks, everyone, for joining. So, anyways, so I have a hell of a time sleeping because I have crazy mad hot flashes. One of the things I've really found that works is a cooling blanket. It's really cool. And if there's anyone out there who has something that they've done, I'm really hoping that people will jump on here, but that they've done and it works, let me know. And if it hasn't worked, let me know. Pardon me. But a cooling blanket is great. I have a friend, real dear friend, amazing human being, just one of the most positive human beings in the world. She was unfortunately in a car accident, has burns all over her whole entire body. She uses this cooling blanket, and what happens when you touch this blanket, it just the way that it's made up or whatever, it just cools your body, and it's super great. So I've used that. I open the window, and sometimes it's snowing in my bedroom. My husband just loves that. He needs way more blankets than I do. And I just got a BedJet. I don't know, has anyone had a BedJet? Because that seems super cool. I'm super excited. It just arrived in the mail today, and it is, it's pretty expensive, but it's got a 60-day warranty, so you can send it back if it doesn't work. But what it does is it's basically a fan, and it has a special sheet, and it blows the fan into the sheets, and so you can get, if you have a spouse or a partner or whomever you lay with, I'm sure your dogs would appreciate it too if those are who you're laying with, but anyways, it separates it, so then the fan only blows into the one side. Man, I am so stoked to start using that tonight. Woohoo! Yes, I hope it works, I hope it works, I hope it works. For me, otherwise, I'm like window open, fan on, hopefully the bed jet works, and then we've been taking some melatonin, I tried magnesium, all that stuff, we're gonna talk about that. My doctor prescribed me olanzapine, which is a medication that is typically for schizophrenics. God, it fucking knocked me out for, well, at least a good 12 hours, and then I woke up and felt like shit for another 2. So, I am super empathetic now to people with mental health issues that are trying all these meds, and they say, "It doesn't make me feel like me." Oh, I get you. Because if that's the shit you're taking, fuck no, it doesn't make you feel like you. It makes you feel like shit. It's basically like taking you out of the system, right? You don't get activities of daily living anymore. You don't get to go out and about because you're sleeping or you feel like sleeping. It's no bueno. So, anyways, yeah, that's what olanzapine does. But I mean, I had black bags under my eyes and I've just been so crazy, needing sleep. So I decided I've taken it 3 times just to make sure that it really knocks the shit out of me. Yes, it does. It feels like shit. I don't like it. I don't feel bad for the people who say, "Hey, like, I don't wanna take it anymore. I'd rather deal with my mental health issues than deal with this." But anyways, but I started cutting it, and so now I take, like, a third of it, and that has helped. Actually, I just started doing that, and so as of the last 2 nights, I got really solid sleep. Probably went into the REM sleep, had some crazy ass dreams as we do when we sleep in one of those 4 stages, right? I guess the hardest stage. I don't know, I've just been listening to some podcasts about sleep in the 4 different stages. I think we're all familiar with the REM or REM stage, and then probably the first stage, which is barely asleep, I'm guessing. And then there's 2 stages between that. So I'm not an expert by any means, but I was just listening to Matthew Walker on a Joe Rogan episode, and he was really talking about, he had some cool ideas about what we should do to help us sleep. First of all, I wanna note that I've done, a good amount of research on this, and so what I'm noting from all of the research, no matter what I read, is that everything should be done 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. So really what it is that you're setting yourself up for sleep. Okay, 1 to 2 hours before bed. So, Matthew Walker talks about it, I mean, he's a neuroscientist, right? He's a professor in neuroscience. Or I don't know what he does today because it was just a couple years ago that I listened to the podcast, but he studies the brain. And he was just talking about, which what intrigued me was just looking at people who live in nature, right? Looking at our ancestors who are wandering around and sleeping. And what triggered their body to sleep was just the natural darkness, right? We don't actually, most of us don't have natural darkness anymore because we live in the city. I am lucky enough to have 40 acres and I'm surrounded by darkness at night, right? I get to go out and look at the sky. I live in Western Colorado. We don't have a lot of pollution. So I get to look and see a million stars, right? It's amazing. So I have natural darkness, but most of us don't because we have light pollution of any city. And, if you're lucky enough, you live in a city that at least has like motion sensors on it, right? But most of us don't have that. The other thing he was talking about that impairs our, access to darkness is looking at these fucking screens, right? We're looking at our screens, we're looking at TV, hoping that's going to make us go to sleep. But what is it? It's a light. So he suggests that we have to be in darkness 1 to 2 hours before we go to sleep so that it triggers our body. Hey, it's about to be sleepy time. It's getting dark. And our body says, okay, releases melatonin. Yes, a natural thing. Your body has the melatonin already. Funny shit. My husband and I just started taking melatonin. He says, no, you don't need it. It's probably a placebo effect, right? And this is what he says, right? I don't know if this is true or not, but he says you're probably getting the placebo effect. I'd just say you're doubling down or you're tripling down or quadrupling down on melatonin, right? What could that hurt? So you're taking more melatonin, you're getting more melatonin than you need in your body. But apparently, naturally, about 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, your body starts releasing this melatonin, starts putting you to sleep because it's triggered by the darkness. So rather than sitting on our iPods, or I mean iPads, and or sitting on our looking at TV, we should be sitting in darkness and really calming our body, right? Getting out of that fight or flight, getting out of that stress. We should be de stressing. So, you're doing everything that you can, sitting in darkness as much as you can. Read a book, which maybe takes like a little bit of light if you can do that, or do anything else you can do. So, reducing the light is one of the things that he suggests. The other thing that he was talking about was, letting your body temperature read the environment, right? So naturally, if we were living in nature, the temperature drops. So when the temperature drops, our body starts realizing, hey, it's time to go to sleep. So he suggests that, if you're sitting inside where you have, your house is always at 72 degrees, maybe lowering that temperature appropriately. The other thing that you can do to put your body naturally, easier into this, kind of like force it in, right? What do they call it? Hijacking or biohacking. I think that biohacking is what they call it. We could take a bath, or jump in a hot tub, right? And so that obviously heats your body. But then when you jump out of the bath or the hot tub, your body goes into this state of repairing itself, right? And then it cools your body temperature. Your body temperatures, I guess it's easier to cool. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I'm just kind of talking through these things. So I'm hoping that somebody else is going to chime in here. So, but I haven't had anyone chime in as of yet. But so, same thing with the cold plunge. I've read and science kind of supports, kind of, I say kind of because you can find science that supports and you can find science that doesn't support, right? That's the beauty of science, right? So you have research that says this and research that says another thing. Okay. But anyway, so there's some science that suggests that cold plunging will work, and for all those who don't know, it's just plunging into the cold, right? So you jump into a cold bath, or you jump into the river, or you jump into the ocean, or you jump into a pond, you jump into an ice bath, whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't even have to be icy, it could just be a cold bath, right? Because that's cold enough for our body to go, "Holy shit," right? And it tenses up, and then when you come out of that, your body, it starts adjusting to its temperature. It starts impacting, as I say, it's impacting your your stress, your inflammation. It's activating your nervous system. So all of that stuff helps and just again gets you ready for bedtime. So 1 to 2 hours before you're going to bed, you're doing something like this. All the hype on TikTok that I've been seeing are these stupid foot pads. All right? Foot pads. Yeah, I fell for it. Good job, TikTok sales ladies, because I so fell for it, right? Social media influencers, we're going to talk about them soon. But foot pads, yep. I bought those fucking foot pads and I put them on my husband and I put them on myself and they got, oh, supposedly they got melatonin and lavender and all this lovely stuff in it. I didn't really look at them, right? I was just like, God, this works, right? And it's gonna take the toxins out of your body. This little shitty ass foot pad that sticks to the bottom of your feet is supposed to detox your body. I didn't do any research. I was just so hyped by all the shit on TikTok, and I was so excited to actually start going TikTok shopping, and that's a totally different subject, really not related to cancer, so I'm not gonna talk about it, but really, I was duped, okay? So I got these foot pads, woke up the next morning, oh my gosh, they're black, just like everyone says. Well, only one of mine was black, and then a little part of mine was the other one was black, and that's exactly where my foot was sweating. And then I looked at the pad, and I was like, "No fucking way." It's just there's, like, black beading or whatever the hell is inside of these, shitty papered stick-on foot pads, and so that my sweat reflected that black, right? Does that make sense? Right? So I could see the black where my foot was sweating. So that's all it was doing. It was just showing me where the black stuff comes out, similar to those hand pads that you get for warming your hands when it's really cold out. So basically, that's all it is. That's all they were. They were just like heat pads gone bad, right? So they resold them as foot pads, said they work for sleeping, and hopefully they gave you some placebo effect, and hopefully you fell asleep, and then you went on TikTok and gave those assholes a five-star review that made me buy the foot pads, okay? They don't work. So then my smart husband actually started researching it, and no, you cannot detox with them. I looked it up, Mayo Clinic. I believe in what the Mayo Clinic says. No, they say no, no scientific information that you can detox from your feet. All right. And then they go through and explain all the process. Okay. So don't try the foot pads, they do not work. Some other things that we can do besides cold plunges and baths or take some other supplements or take some meds. And in fact, the interesting thing was I was talking to my oncologist about this, and she said she prescribed to me the psych meds. And then I asked her assistant about it, the physician's assistant about it, her PA, and she said, "Well, there really aren't any meds for sleep." Well, that's weird because my whole entire life, I think that people have been telling me that they're taking meds for sleeping. I guess they got duped as well. Really, what she said is, no, it's not actually for sleeping. They're medicines prescribed really for something else, but we actually just figured out that they help you sleep also. So then we said, "Okay, yeah, we're prescribing it for sleeping," but really they're meant for something else, right? So like Wellbutrin, wasn't that it was meant to help you stop smoking, and then they figured out it works for depression, and then they figured out it works for weight loss. So now, I mean, it was not too long ago, I asked my doctor, "Hey, could I, get some meds for weight loss?" And she said, "Well, some people use Wellbutrin, and since you're already taking meds for depression and anxiety, maybe then you could just take some Wellbutrin. It will, you're doubling down, right? You only got one med, and it will help you with all these things." Yeah, sure. Sure. It didn't help me with losing weight, but again, all these different things that can help. And why is sleep so important? Why is sleep so important for cancer warriors and for people who are dealing with people with cancer? Because we're fucking tired, right? Our bodies are tired. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm sleeping 9 to 10 hours per day, and then I'm still taking naps, right? So I need something because when I'm sleeping that 9 to 10 hours per day, I'm sleeping like shit. If I could just get some good sleep, then I would probably only sleep 9 hours or 8 hours, right? And Matthew Walker, he says that you need at least 8 hours. Less than seven, no bueno. More than 10, no bueno. So let's stick with 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So I need that 7 to 9 hours. Otherwise, I'm taking naps throughout the day. And you can take a siesta throughout the day, right? We look at other cultures, and other cultures certainly have things that work, right? So hopefully you cannot hear my dogs barking in the background, but apparently they decided it was time to bark. I'm like crazy mad. But anyways, so that's a burden of going live. Yes, folks, that's the burden of going live. Anyways, nobody has chimed in, I'm sorry about this, but so really there's according to the PA, there is no medication out there for actually helping you sleep. It's just actually prescribed for something else, but it helps you sleep, so you might as well take it. So if you think that you're taking a medication that is made to help you sleep, I wanna know what it is because I was told it doesn't exist. Alright, so on that topic, another shitty thing that cancer warriors and supports deal with on a daily basis is everyone telling us we need to do this, that, or the other thing to avoid cancer or to get rid of the cancer. Yeah, go fuck yourself. That's what I want to say every time that somebody says that. I mean, I don't because I appreciate you and I appreciate that you're thinking about it. And I appreciate maybe that that works for you, and maybe you haven't had cancer because that's something you're doing. All right. But I am living every day with cancer, and I will be living every day with cancer for the rest of my fucking life. Maybe that will be 20 years, and maybe that will only be one more year. But while I'm living it, I've gotta take so many supplements every day and so much medication just to deal with my life on a daily basis that I can't even fathom thinking about taking something else, right? But more than that, I have to do the research. So, ivermectin is a hot topic, right? We give it to our mules. We have mules and donkeys out there in my backyard. My dogs are barking at. I take ivermectin and I put it in a tube and shoot it in my donkey's mouth so that they don't get worms. That's what it's for. Okay. It's dewormer for huge animals that would step on your feet and break your feet. Okay. So certainly I would not suggest using the animal kind. Well, apparently they sell it for humans too. And yeah, I looked on the FDA website and in 2020, ivermectin was approved for something. It was approved to treat head lice. Okay. It didn't say anything about cancer because there is no scientific evidence that it removes or prevents cancer. All right. And why is that? I don't know. I mean, a lot of the conspiracy, a lot of the people who think there's, some shit going on out there, right? It's big pharma, right? There's not enough money in it. So that there's it's it's a cheap drug, it's readily available, and so there's no money in it, right? So why would they study it? I don't know. And then there's other people that say, well, if there was a cure for cancer and if it was ivermectin, then why wouldn't they just tell us that? Right? Why wouldn't somebody just why wouldn't somebody go against big pharma, go against all this, stuff and just save lives, right? And the one guy or girl or whomever that speaks out and says, hell yeah, I'm a scientist and I have actual proof that ivermectin removes cancer or prevents cancer, that person is going to make a shit ton of money, right? He's gonna, or she's gonna, or it's gonna be billionaire. So why the fuck would they be sitting silent, right? So all of those people who have money, why don't you give some scientist money to go research that stuff? You know? I mean, I find it hard to believe that if there's something out there, a natural thing that's already around that could cure me, why wouldn't somebody tell me about it? Right? So I do ask my oncologist. She says just no, no scientist. No science supports that, right? So I asked my PA, who's a little more open-minded and a little easier to talk with, and she's like, "Well, there's no science on it, right?" And she talks about big pharma and all these things that I was just talking about. But she says, "Well, if you take it, it's going to damage your liver." Right? I think everyone across the board agrees that it would be damaging to your liver. So right now, I'm drinking some bourbon, right? I'm already damaging my liver. But every 3 weeks, I have to get blood tests, and those blood tests decide if my liver is strong enough to take on my medication that I need to keep me alive right now. And my medication is currently working. So I don't care if Big Pharma's making money right now. All I care about is that I can breathe better. I'm not coughing. I'm on oxygen 24/7, right? Not in all elevations, but right now I'm on oxygen 24/7 and I can breathe better. Finally, I can sing a song. I can sing the words to a song. And when I got this in May of 2025, I couldn't sing a word because I didn't have the lung capacity to sing. So, right now, I take these meds every day at 9:30 for 3 weeks. Then I go 1 week off. And then I go to the doctor. They take my blood. They test everything, right? They test my vitamin D3. They test my calcium. They test my liver. They test everything else. They test my electrolytes, right? And if everything isn't on point, they will not let me take my meds. So why would I go deworm myself because it might work? It's not going to work over fucking night. That's for sure. I'm pretty sure if there's any science out there, it says that you're going to have to use it for months. Okay. Because we're supposed to give our donkeys and mules ivermectin every few months, right? It's just not a one and done. So I'm going to have to continuously do it, right? So what if I took it and then it completely kills my liver? And it's not, I mean, I'm being over dramatic, right? But if I take it, it totally fucks my liver, right? And now I can't take the meds that I know are working. And I have a really aggressive breast cancer. I'm not going to do that. So while I appreciate everyone giving me these ideas, right? And I appreciate that maybe it works for you. And maybe it works for a different cancer too. That's the big thing, right? Cancer is huge. And I'll talk about this probably in every single one of my episodes, how huge cancer is. There are so many different types of breast cancer, right? So even when I'm talking to a friend about breast cancer, right? We identify what type of breast cancer we have because I have estrogen positive breast cancer, right? Some people have triple negative breast cancer, which means that it has no hormones related to it. That's why I understand. Okay. Again, I'm not an expert. Some people have HERS2 cancer, breast cancer, right? They're all different. They all get treated differently. And mine might mutate into another eventually. And so if these meds stop working, I'm going to get biopsies and I'm going to get tests to find out if it has mutated to something else. And then they're going to have to start treating me differently, right? So it's all different, right? My husband had throat cancer, not the kind of throat cancer that you get from smoking because he never smoked. He got it from HPV. Guess what, folks? There's about 500 strains of HPV out there also. It's my understanding that all of our bodies have HPV and it sits dormant in our bodies. But some of us don't have an immune system, a good immune system at a certain time when it just flares up. And so shit hits the fan like it did for my husband. He got sick, his HPV flared up, and boom, a tumor showed up. Okay, does ivermectin work for him? Would it work for him? I don't know, but he's going to probably start taking it just to prevent anything in the future, but he doesn't have to deal with the shit that I have to deal with on a daily basis, right? So what I want to submit to all of you is that it's great. They're great conversations. And so, my episodes are meant for not only the people who are fighting and dealing with cancer on a day-to-day basis, right? So this is shit we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I can promise you almost every day that I talk to somebody, they're like, what about this? What about this? What about that? And, you know, I hear that and it's something we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and probably you are scared shitless of getting cancer, and so it's something you think about on a daily basis. So this episode is about shit we all deal with, right? And so if you're gonna suggest something, maybe think about it a little bit more, or maybe do some research on it Another one, that has been suggested to me is apricot seeds, right? I love my mom to death. So my mom has a lot of things that she's been talking about. She wants to, do all the things. There's a lot of fads out there, right? We all know about the fads. I just talked about one of them, foot pads. Don't fucking buy the foot pads. Anyway, so I looked up apricot seeds, and I'm going to trust FDA.gov. FDA, Federal Drug Administration, says that apricot seeds have something in it called amygdalin. I don't know how to pronounce it. Okay. Amygdalin, which converts to a toxic cyanide when ingested, posing severe safety risks. If you eat apricot seeds, you could die. So, yeah, maybe it kills cancer, and maybe it kills me and you. That's what toxic shit does. So, I could also go drink bleach. I could probably drink some Tide. I don't know. How about all those kids who are eating Tide Pods out there? Maybe we could research them. Are they free of cancer? Maybe. Maybe that's the next fad, right? Eat a Tide Pod, and you won't have cancer anymore, or you won't get cancer. Hmm. I don't know. But again, let's research it. By the way, mom, throw the fucking apricot seeds away. Okay? No, they don't work. Again, no bueno. Not happening. Okay? Oh, we finally have our first podcast listener, which is Melissa Wright. So happy to have you, Melissa. Can you hear me? I can't hear her. Let's see. Hopefully she chimes in. But as I sit here and try and figure that out, oh, okay, she's chatting to me. She says, hello. Yay. I'm so glad to have a podcast listener. I mean, I have got, yes, Melissa is chiming in. So, yeah, I've got tons of followers. Hey, Melissa, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good. I'm just talking about apricot seeds. Do you know about apricot seeds?
I know that I get millions of apricot seeds when I get apricots.
Well, my mom believes that they somehow cure cancer. And I was just looking it up, and apparently they're toxic and they can just kill you.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's bullshit.
Right. Well, there's things like that. Like you shouldn't ingest silver. It's not good for you.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so silver, another one. But I was just talking about, maybe there's Tide Pods out there or something, all those Tide Pods that people were eating. Maybe they don't have
Uh-huh.
cancer anymore, you know? Who
Oh.
knows? So,
Oh, I called because I just listened to your first episode and I loved it. Thank you. I really was inspired. And then at the end, you said you were live. So I'm like, oh, where is that? So I found you. Yay.
yes, thank you. So I'm live. I'm live on TikTok and I'm live here on Podbean. So my first live episode, I'm super stoked.
Yay.
So the next thing that I was thinking about talking about was the other thing that people keep on telling me is like, I shouldn't eat sugar, right? So I looked it up again. Sugar is not classified as a carcinogenic, but of course, we all know that sugar is bad for you, right?
Hmm.
So, directly linked to inflammation and obesity. And what I'm kind of just gathering about everything that I'm looking at and everything that people are saying, oh, you shouldn't have that. It feeds a cancer. Well, it's also feeding inflammation and generally speaking, obesity, right? Like even alcohol exactly
Right.
does the exact same thing. Inflammation, obesity, and it fucks with your liver. So when you're inflamed or when you're overweight, then your liver isn't functioning that great. So, so Melissa is a friend of mine that just joined us, and she is kind of, I wouldn't say she's a health nut, but she's definitely healthy. And so, what are your thoughts about preserved foods and sugars.
I do advocate that we should only eat natural things, like not out of a can, nothing processed. Once you add things that aren't natural, I think you're going down a path of that can't end well.
Yeah.
And
And so,
sugar, we are just addicted to it because it turns on our endorphins or whatever receptors it plugs into, right? So it's biological. It really taps into those things.
yeah.
It makes it hard for us, right? I am out on a walk right now because I need to exercise to counter all that donut I had today.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's what we're doing. So we talk about everything. Like there are some things, right? There are some triggers, some stuff that science says really does impact cancer. So, alcohol is one of, your weight is one of them, and diets. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there about that. But what are your thoughts on preserved foods, and why don't you eat preserved foods? Like what do you believe it does to your body?
Well, I think there's more nutrients in things that are fresh.
Okay.
First of all, I mean more fiber probably. Just it's going to have less of those chemicals, right? Like chemicals in our body cannot where do they go? Like you said, through our liver, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I mean, that's my main thought about it. It's just try to eat as naturally as possible.
Yeah, and I would agree. So I think that that's really what it boils down to. And now that I'm stage 4, I don't get to work a lot. So I just have nothing but a whole bunch of spare time on my hands and a whole bunch of people telling me I should do this or I should do that. And, oncologist who just tells me just do this. And, maybe you'll live for 20 years, but you won't actually, tell me that I probably won't ever live 20 years. But what I'm really realizing is that preserved foods, sugars, obesity, all of those things impact your liver. They impact how our organs function on a day to day basis. They impact how we're stressed out. And while there is no like conclusory scientific evidence that stress causes cancer, there is certainly some science out there that says that it contributes to it. And
Mhm.
so I think all of those things, they fuck with your body, and what you're doing, like exercising, everything is really to combat that, right? And so when you're not eating preserved foods, we're getting nutrients. And that's really what it boils down to is that we need nutrients in our body, right?
Yeah.
We need a healthy body to be able to fight the cancer. So my body, for example, is fighting cancer every day. And so I'm super fucking tired, right? All the time because just for me to live, my body is constantly fighting things that are in my body. So I'm constantly
Mhm.
tired, right? Not only do I have
Mhm.
menopause and all the other bullshit that I'm dealing with and meds that make me sleepy and all this crap, but my body needs more nutrients than it can get, probably. And it's just my liver and everything is just fighting. So when I'm drinking alcohol, I'm doing myself such a disservice, and I totally realize this, right? But it's just my liver should be processing all of this stuff. And Melissa's liver can process everything way better than my liver can, but I say fuck it, whatever. But yeah, I think that's what it boils down to is that we need nutrients and we need healthy things that aren't, taking control of our organs. And if we do that, then maybe we reduce the cancer or we live cancer free. And that's what we all we can hope for.
Mhm.
So, hey, Melissa, did you have anything else to add? We're just talking about shit that people would deal with on a regular basis.
We all know it. No. I have stress, and I like that. I like to hear, yeah, we got to keep that in mind. When we say take a mental health day, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I do too. I was listening to something, I think it's called Zion, but Anyways, there's this lady on there who was diagnosed. We always hear the stories about stage 4 cancer patients who, like, it's a miracle, right? That even though stage 4 is supposed to be our death sentence, that they are now disease free.
Mm.
And, I certainly live in a world of metastatic breast cancer patients where we know that it's not curable, but it's treatable. And I was listening to this one lady who was talking about how she lived in this like high corporate world, high stress environment, right? So she she got cancer. And then her doctors told her all the meds that she could take and all the things that she could do. And then she she chose after she did a lot of that stuff and then they didn't see any cancer in her body, she just decided, "Hey, I'm going to now just live a stress-free life," right? So she got out of
Mm.
the corporate world, she changed her diet, she started exercising, and she's been cancer-free, meaning that it's not detected in her body, right? It doesn't mean
Uh-huh.
that she's cured, it means that she's treated. But so she really believes that stress had something to do with her cancer.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that to be true, and I have this guilt in me that says, "Hey, I kept on working as a lawyer when my doctor told me not to." And, sometimes it makes me sad, and I can't undo what I did, but, like, if I wasn't in family law, would I have gotten that cancer back so quickly? Because it's really stressful, you know?
Mhm.
And so,
Right.
maybe it wouldn't have came back in, less than a year. Maybe if I would've quit my job and listened to my oncologist, I could have, been cancer free, but I'd be fucking broke, so that would just be another stressor, you know?
Right, right,
I
and,
don't know.
you gotta be ready to embrace that kinda thing too. It's like and now you have an open mind and you're exploring it and finding out the facts, so
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, and I think that's what boils down to, like, again, it boils down to having an open mind, I think, but embracing adversity, right? I love that, you said that, embracing that, right? So, embracing this opportunity and going, "Well, okay, well, we get to decide now. Do I, again, do I plan my funeral or do I plan my life?" And we have to decide what we're going to do with that, and Melissa is awesome. She's always exercising and doing all the things that we all should be doing
except the
that
eating
I just
donuts.
don't do. And I use my nose hose, really, quite honestly, I use it as a crutch, right? I mean, I can go out and exercise. I've taken the dogs for a walk. I have done it, right? It's not that I can't do it, and I'd probably be able to breathe a little bit better every time I did it even more if I did that, but I use it as a crutch, I think, and I know that. I use me being tired and feeling like shit all the time as
Mhm.
something that prevents me from being a better me, from exercising and I don't and you know that, I mean, I don't like exercising, I never have liked exercising, I don't like working out, I don't like being
But
fat, but
walking the doggies, though, the walking the doggies, that's fun, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's fine. I think I'm not gonna lose any weight real quick, I mean, it doesn't even combat this one bourbon that I'm drinking, but,
But it's fresh air, which is good for you.
yeah. And
Sunshine, which
I have to take plenty of vitamin D3, so at least when I get the sun, it's helping me.
yeah, and when you
But,
feel like it, when you feel ready for it, you'll maybe do it. Who knows?
yeah, and that takes me into my next session. Are you gonna stay with me, Melissa? Are you heading
Oh, I
Oh,
I have to go do chores, sadly, so
okay.
but
Well, thanks for
but it's
chiming
been
in.
fun, fun. Thank you.
Alright, take care. All right. Well, I hope that other people will join us too. I haven't seen any comments and I hope I haven't missed any comments on TikTok, but with this brain of mine, I'm really, sometimes I have a hard time multitasking, which used to be one of my strengths, and I hate that about my life now. So I'm just scrolling through real quick. Okay, I haven't seen any comments on TikTok. So what I want to talk to you about next was low motivation. So I was researching this and again, listening to some podcasts on this, and there certainly is some science behind this, right? So I just found one thing that really stuck with me recently, and it was an article called or a publication called The Neuroscience of Goals and Behavior Change by Elliot Bergman. And she, quote unquote, this is what she says: a goal is a detour from the path of least resistance. She also says we have things we want, but things we have difficulty achieving, right? And that focuses on, in her article, focuses on two different things. Do we have the skills to do what we're hoping to do? Do we have the skills to do what we want to do? And then do we have the desire to do what we want to do? And that puts me in, again, exactly where I am at, right? So, what I was just talking about, I have the desire to drink this bourbon for sure, right? Like, it makes me happy. It makes me feel good. I know it makes my face look puffy, right? So, I want to get rid of the puffy face. But fuck, I'd rather just go to a doctor and say, hey, can you give me whatever, Wellbutrin or whatever the hell it is to make my face look less puffy? Or, "Hey, I actually have a great idea. Can I take some of this fat from my face and put it into my boobs?" Yes, I can. I actually can. I think I have a new listener here on Podbean again, so I just wanted to wait for the little prompt to welcome him or her or whatever. So, but what I wanna say is that I have the skills to work out. Sure, I do. Does my nose hose Does my nose hose impact me working out? Absolutely, right? I have to deal with the burden of this hose. I have to be stuck to it at all times, right? So it's hard enough for me to move around, and like I'm at the grocery store leaning in for something. Hi, Fax Porcupine. If you would like to join in and like to join in the discussion, you can certainly, I think, prompt me and I will certainly invite you in to join in the discussion. Just wanted to kind of throw that out there. But so motivation. Do I have the motivation or the desire? Okay, cool. Thank you, Facts Porcupine. I like that name too, and I hope you have some good facts to add to this. But yeah. So, do I have the skills? Of course, I can go walking. I can tell you, I'm shitty at jumping. It's actually very funny. My husband laughs at me whenever I jump. Do this little scream like ah, and try and jump, and I basically get 1 inch off the ground. I don't know. It is definitely a skill. So I do not have that skill. That's for a fucking fact. I do not have that skill. But I can certainly walk, I can certainly exercise, I have that skill, but I'm gonna use crutches, right? I'm gonna use whatever I can with I'm gonna say my crutch is cancer, right? It's in my lungs, it's in my bones, right? My body hurts. I'm tired all the time. I have a hard time breathing, and so do I have the skills? Yes. Do I have barriers? Yes. It's called a disability, really. It Cancer impacts our activities of daily living. And for some, that's more than others. For me as a lawyer, it impacts my brain and how I think and how I can respond to my regular everyday life. But yeah, it impacts me. But does it impact my ability to go walk my dogs? No, not really. It just impacts my desire. And so, what the research says out there is if you want to facilitate a change in your behavior, which for me would be choosing to sit on my couch with a glass of bourbon over going out and walking the dogs or walking my donkeys, yeah, I'm going to choose the bourbon, right? The bourbon and the Law and Order that I love to watch, right? So if we want behavior change, if we want to increase our motivation, if we want to achieve our goals, then the science says that we have to avoid the fight and flight, right? So we have to take on small goals, right? Start slow so that it's not overwhelming. And so what that means, right, for me, and quite honestly, I have been doing this, is like literally what I write on I take a dry erase marker and write it on my bathroom mirror. Hey, smile more. Get outside. And my husband encourages me to do this. And just it just starts with just take a moment to go outside, right? Take a moment to just get some D3. And then that little moment, I achieved my goal and then just increase the goal from there. So now spend 10 minutes outside. Okay, now go outside, go down the stairs, and go visit your donkeys every day, right? Just start with small little changes because these are behavior changes, right? Small little goals to get to the behavior change that you want to see, right? I mean, I was a special education teacher for 5 years. I know this. I know this very well, and I don't practice it. And I think we all need to do this. I'm on a lot of social media, and I well, listen, quote unquote, to people in different phases of supporting people with cancer, specifically lung cancer. Because that's one that I find. Well, obviously, I have cancer in my lungs, and my dad had cancer in his lungs, and he really, really struggled. Sorry, TikTok is doing something to me. So he really, really struggled with, oh my gosh, sorry. Okay. So, he struggled with getting off of his recliner and because he couldn't breathe, right? And according to him, he has no quality of life, but he's staying alive for my mom. And, you know, I had the same thing, right? I want to go walk. I want to go hang out with my donkeys. I want to go do all these things. I want to go fucking rafting so much, right? But you have to take that plunge. You have to say, I'm willing to do it, right? You have to have what Elliot Berkman talked about. You have to have the desire. Okay. So, and that desire is not, I don't lack the desire to, my dad didn't, I'm going to go back to my dad instead. I'm sure he didn't lack the desire to go out with my mom for dinner, right? But walking just from his recliner to the car was a burden on him, right? So, did he have the skills? And in his mind, he would say the skills for him was just breathing. He didn't have the breath that it takes to get from point A to point B. Chewing, eating your food is hard when you have lung cancer. And so I look at all the people who are supports to people with lung cancer, and I see how hard they are struggling. And gosh, I feel bad. I feel really bad. And I think my husband says the same thing, about me, Tammy, just take small steps, right? And so when we're low on motivation, I think that's what we need to do. We need to just set small goals and realize, do we have the skills? And if we have the skills, just like I was a special education teacher, sometimes cancer impacts our ability, right? It gives us barriers. And so, what I'm going to motivate you to do today, because, we've had some giggles and we've had some laughs. We've talked about a lot of shit that we deal with on an everyday basis. But what I want to leave you here with today is that if you're a cancer patient, I want you to look at the skills that you have, right? What skills do you have? And what desires do you have? And let's write them down, right? Write them down and then create a small path to achieving that big behavior change, right? So the walk around the block, right? Not just the walk down the stairs, right? It starts with the walk onto the porch and then sitting on that porch just a little bit longer and then walking down the stairs just to say hi to the donkeys. And then actually, wow. taking the physical effort to round up those donkeys, which for me is hard because I also have bone cancer. And, so I'm not only winded, but, and my donkeys hate my oxygen. They hate my nose hose. So I have to deal with that and that heartache also that causes me. So not only I have to deal with some of that grief as well. Right. So dealing with that, rounding up those donkeys, being not afraid that they're gonna break my fragile bones, right? And so some of that skill and motivation, desire comes with the ability to grasp your motivation, like Melissa was just talking about, the ability to grasp what you're dealing with and to grasp that desire and to deal with it. All right, I'm gonna let Fax Porcupine chime in right now and invite him in to talk because he has something to say. And sorry, this is my first live thing and I saw it. Yes, I'm going to invite him in. Hello, can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, great. Kinda interesting that you're going through what you're dealing with, because there's a couple of people that I do know, and I met a young lady that was diagnosed with cancer, and then I will only just try to understand only the things that you mentioned so that I keep it fair, and congratulations, you're just starting. Is this your first show?
It is. Yeah. Well, this is my first live show. Yeah. So I did like a 12-minute just kind of intro the other day that I released yesterday. So yeah.
Nice.
Otherwise, this is my first live show. Yeah. Are
Alright,
you
well,
a podcaster?
yeah, I did. I'm 856 shows in, so
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, I just
Nice.
started, so it's fun.
You just started with 850 shows?
Yeah, it's not like, I haven't been on here many years like many other people. I'll put it like that. Maybe less than 3, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you've been busy every fucking day then, right?
Well, I mean, I'm interesting, and
That's
and
good.
I took a break from some things, I'm a CEO and ran for public office, so there's a lot. So anyway, yeah, I'm
Okay.
so honored that you pressed that red button, you got it going.
Yeah, hell yeah, yeah. Like with cancer and I was a lawyer. Well, I am a lawyer. I'd like to say, I was a full-time lawyer, and now I have to embrace kind
Mhm,
of the new me, right? And find out what I can do with my life. And
mhm.
so trying to get into public speaking and podcasting and just to like kind of give back to the community because I used to do that as a lawyer and I used to do that with my nonprofits, and now I need to find a new outlet for that. So,
I think you're gonna be very successful with this because you have 3 elements. One, you're dealing with a disease and a struggle, so that. Then you have judicial a lawyer, you understand that. And then you have another trait which allows you to, got a beautiful gentleman, and women lawyers to me are very savvy, especially when they look great, so, 'cause the men y'all gotta work that, you put it you're brilliant in your own right, and then you're pretty. So it makes it hard for judges to keep their eyes focused on the laws. Nobody joking. Alright. So I got 3 questions that I need to know about cancer so I can help some other people that I know. So one
okay.
thing would be about the caregiving part of it, the assisting somebody with that, because this young lady I met, there was something on the train, and, the guy was mean to her. And I met her coming down off the elevator, and I started talking. Hey, so listen, I want to make that right. And I'm single, so I'm into women, And she was white, and then we talking. She happened to tell me that she was dealing with cancer. And so I felt, wow, well, maybe I can be a good support for her outside of uplifting and encouragement because I couldn't really talk, medically. But I'm not, I do know she wanted to go holistic. And her friends that was trying to give her some advice, they didn't agree with that. And she was Native American or something like that. So, so my question on how do we help someone? What is something that we could do to assist them on any level. And then the other thing was you changing your capacity of doing things is brilliant based on that. And I say you can do anything you want. And then I need to know about, do you have real donkeys?
Yes. Okay.
And where do you
Well,
have donkeys at in what state or what country?
the okay, so I'm gonna go with the last one because the last one's easy. Yeah. Hell yeah, I have donkeys. I have 2 donkeys. We live in Colorado. I'm fortunate enough to have I currently just purchased a property not too long ago on 40 acres. So I live
Really?
above the Colorado National Monument, and yeah, we got some donkeys, and they were rescued, so people probably don't know this, but there's a bunch of wild donkeys out there, and there's too many out there, and so the government goes and rounds them up, and and then it puts them in pens. Sad, sad story. And then people like me go and pay. We only paid 125 bucks to adopt these donkeys, and then after a year of taking care of them, make sure you take care of them. Then they give you the title to them, and they are then yours. So our donkeys, yeah, they were never even touched by humans really before we got them. And it took us a few months, and you just have to go and hang out with them every day and love them. They're super inquisitive. They're awesome. Yeah, love them. They're like big, huge dogs.
So the
So yeah, we have
donkey,
2 donkeys. Yeah,
right. So
go
the
ahead.
donkey, all right. So instead of having a cat, dog, a fish, or a bird mm, in Colorado, because the Colorado buffaloes, so you hear a lot about Colorado. What made you want? Did you have your eyes focus on a donkey?
Well, I'm just gonna start. I'm gonna start with I have dogs too. I have 2 dogs.
I
I
heard.
have
I heard. Yes,
yeah,
ma'am.
6 chickens, and yeah, we have natural birds around. But so my husband is a big hiker,
Good
and now
job.
that he's getting older, he's a big
Yeah.
hunter as well.
Good job.
And so with that, it's getting harder for him to start carrying things around, and
Hmm.
he used to pack with donkeys. And so what we're going to use them for is packing. And
Right.
so we're training them to like just, pack out whatever he hunts.
These are the
And
ones. Yeah. Yeah. That sounds great.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
need them. But he
it's
go,
super
hee
cool.
haw, right? Those are the ones you got, right?
Hell yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah,
So
they're fucking
what
awesome.
are you responsible to feed them? Obviously, you have the land and everything.
Yeah, well,
What do they
they're in
eat?
pens. Yeah, so
Okay.
they eat low sugar hay. So
Low
not
sugar
alfalfa,
hay.
but yeah, low sugar hay. I mean, I go out there and feed them. They love lettuce, they love carrots, they love apples, and all that good stuff. But yeah, we I can't feed them anymore. Well, I mean I could, but
Uh-huh.
lifting the hay and stuff is a bit much for me. But yeah, so they go out there, and actually it's pretty interesting because
Yeah.
donkeys were known to they protect wild or not wild, like cows and llamas and stuff like that. So they're protecting animals too. So they're just really super cool. I love them.
I didn't know that they were protected type of animals. And
Yeah,
low, they seem like they're vegans. I'm only
they are
joking.
definitely vegans. Yes, you cannot
They're
feed
definitely
them. Yep,
vegans.
yep,
Good job.
yep.
Okay, so that's interesting. And then with you being having all that land and everything, that makes it even more cool. So
Oh yeah,
now, all right, so we got past the donkey, yeah, that's good. And the dogs. And from what you were stating about what you're going through, there was another person that I know that I know on this platform. His mom is struggling with that, with the disease. You know, and then mental health. I've dealt with people that were struggling with stuff. It could be a big weight. Is it once you knew what was going on, and I like how you said that, like a lot of people, and even me, we readjust ourselves, because I had a medical issue and I'm back strong, everybody's gonna have something sooner or later, and hopefully not.
yeah,
Is there anything, are you comfortable with everything the way you're going? Because you sound great and it's just that you just, and being a lawyer too, so you just cut your workforce in half. I mean, your work obligations in half. Would that be the case to get your
yeah.
strength back?
I did. my first I hit stage 3 first, and that time I went through chemo and radiation. I
Mhm.
worked full time that whole entire time. I mean, I had some, like, obviously some time off, like, for
Yeah, you're a
after
beast.
surgeries and stuff like that, but,
Uh-huh.
yeah, no, I worked that whole entire time, and then when it came back, it hit me fucking hard, man.
Mhm.
I wasn't okay with that,
Right.
and like I was just talking about, I think part of me feels like maybe it was the stress that
Mhm.
brought it back, and I don't know that to be true or not, but yeah, I think so. I didn't wanna commit malpractice, right? So I just said, "I can't go into court anymore because my brain doesn't focus that way. I'm on oxygen, it's hard," I was coughing, I was having a hard
Mhm.
time breathing, just
Mhm.
talking. So, yeah, so I had to just cut back in life. But
Mhm.
so I wanna say, like, your other question was, how do you, as a person, help
Right.
somebody with cancer?
Right.
And, that's a big one, and that's one
'Cause you're
that
married,
I
yeah, yeah, because you're
yeah,
married
I'm
with your
married, and
husband, yeah, and he's helped yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you that. Perfect, yes.
yeah, well, the funny thing is, so I got diagnosed in August 2023 with breast cancer. My husband got diagnosed in December of 2023 with throat cancer.
Oh, Lord have
Um,
mercy, God damn.
yeah, it was crazy, but what my husband took from that, right, was the positive that he took from that was that we now understand what we both have gone through. But
Mhm.
I will tell you that what he went through was nothing like I feel like what I went through. Because he, like, I mean, it kicked his ass, right? He lost 73 pounds. He was on a feeding tube. I mean, I looked at him and felt like he was dying, And when I was going through it, I was out there going to the courtroom, I mean, it was crazy.
Mhm.
So what I can say to everyone, and knowing what I went through when my husband had it,
Mhm. Mhm.
and what I went through when I found out my dad had it, and what I went through when I found out when my brother had it, I will tell you is that you have to just know that every day, no matter how great they look, they're dealing with fear. I mean, it's fear. It's this constant anxiety, like, "What is this cancer gonna do to me next?"
Trying to
You know?
figure it all out in the brain and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
I yeah, that's cool. Like, one of my colleagues, I'm into c we no, we're in construction, he's the engineer, and he was diagnosed, and he came out, and I said, "Yo, we're gonna do this." You know what we did? We played a lot of golf. Oh my god. I mean, he wanted to walk, so I walked the oh my god, did we walk in, and he's in remission, I believe, and they say that's the second life, is that some that they use, that's a term that they use when people come through, but he's in remission and all of that. Is it and when you stated that the feeding tubes and all of that, was that just because of the chemo and everything and you needed he had throat cancer, that was a little different from him, that was tough.
Yeah.
Um, are you guys now at a stable part of your life and you're doing okay? Because you sound great, I
Yeah,
mean
I mean, so me, every day is, I'm a stage 4, so I will have cancer until I die. It might not show itself, but I clearly, like, I have tumors in my lungs, I have tumors throughout my spine, I have tumors in my skull. So, yeah, it does it does impact me, but, he is cancer free, and, his was in his throat, so when he had to go through chemo and radiation, so it was hitting all of his organs at the same time, and
Yeah.
it was impairing his throat, so eventually, like, it impaired his saliva,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
everything, and so that he couldn't swallow anymore, really is what
Right,
happened to
right.
him.
So that's where the
Yeah,
feeding tube and everything came into play.
yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah, and that's
right.
what I talk about, like, cancer is so huge, you can't just say, "Hey, somebody has cancer." I mean, yeah, it's okay, somebody has cancer, right? Like, I mean, I don't know, it's like saying, I don't know, somebody has, 1 leg, I don't know. I mean, obviously, it
It's an
impacts them, but
occurrence. It's part of the human makeup, whether it's in some families that I think I heard that it's hereditary because we carry the heart issue in the family, and I just had something going on with my heart, a heart
yeah,
attack, and now, thank God, I'm an athlete. I do a lot, I mean, I'm not like, out of shape and everything, not to say that if you're in or out, anything can happen, And when it's hereditary, you get a little more in a position where you can help, whoever's dealing with it and attacking it first can make it easy for the rest of the family and people other, makes sense? No, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And mine isn't hereditary because my family has cancer, but none of us got it because of our genes, right?
Wow,
So
okay. Wow.
cancer
Yeah.
isn't so like it's specifically breast cancer. Like there's
Yeah.
some certain genes that you deal with. I've been tested for all of my genes have been tested, and I have none that would contribute to cancer.
Oh,
So, so yeah, I just have cancer probably because I drank too much. I was too stressed out, who knows? But I have
we got
cancer.
a couple
So,
of lawyers around here that
yeah.
she just passed by Missy. The bars are popping in this district in Brooklyn because we have a lot of professionals and people have a lot of stress and it alleviates the thing. Can I ask you, and you're so open with it. That's why your show, let me tell you something. You got something going. You're an attorney. No, I'm gonna put it on you, girl. And there's another young lady that's debuting tomorrow called The Autopsy at 9 Central Time. I meet people. I like, and sometimes they ask me things because I'm independent, you independent. And and there's another gentleman that got an HIV. He has full blown and he talks openly. And for you to speak about this is really helpful for me, just to know because I thought I don't know what I could have done for the woman, but and you really don't want to try to pry into people's, life and stuff. But how do when you say stage 4, does it go for stage 1, 2, 3, 4? How do
Yep.
they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as breast cancer is concerned, and that's, really the only thing that I can speak to. I know a lot of
Right,
people have said
right.
stage 4. Stage 4 is supposed to be like end of life, right? But for me, for breast cancer, I had stage 3, and the way they figured that out was because they removed my tumors, and then so they tested that, but also it went into my lymph nodes. And so when it goes into your lymph nodes, that means it's stage 3, right? It means it's more aggressive. And then for stage 4, it means that it's metastasized to some other part of your body. So it's breast cancer, but it's no longer in my breast. It is now in my lungs and in my bones. So it's
Right,
still breast cancer. I don't have lung cancer. I don't have bone cancer. I have
right.
breast cancer in my bones and in my lungs. So when it moves to someplace else for a breast cancer patient, that means it's metastatic breast cancer. We are stage 4, and it means that it's not curable. It's only treatable. So all we can ever do is go into remission, but it will still be in our body. We'll
Okay.
never be free of it.
Well, I appreciate you saying. And then, in my case, when we get past 50 or whatever the case may be,
Mhm.
you tend to want to know. Like, is there any pre-exams that someone can take just to see if anything's going on, or is this some kind of this is a disease that just shows its ugly face by popping up?
Oh, shit, yeah, preventative care, right? I know I
What is
saw this
that? Yeah,
commercial. Yeah, I
yeah.
saw a commercial that there's apparently, like, something like the kinda like the colonoscopy little box
I'm
that shows
doing
up
that. Yeah,
where
yeah, that's
and
right.
walks
Yeah.
around and shit. Yeah,
Wait a minute.
it's
They walk with the box. That's the Cologuard.
yeah, Cologuard, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I heard that there's something like that out there for cancer, but I mean, I don't know. Like, even Cologuard has so many disclaimers, right? Like, this isn't the sure, like, you're not for
No, it's
sure
just
that you're
it's something that they will see. Basically looking at the blood and everything in the
yeah,
stool.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
if it comes back where there's something that says, "See your boom, boom, boom," and that's what I just did, and I'm on top of this, and I really, and then we change our diets and everything. Obviously, that would be that.
yeah,
So the preventative thing is just doing the Cologuard type of, screening and breast cancer screening and
yeah.
colonoscopies and stuff like that is what you meant, what you're referring to, so people that know.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, and people, I mean, like, what I hear a lot is, just living your best life. I would say, and that's, I was talking to a guy at the poker table the other day, and like, if everyone, just lived their best life like they had stage 4 cancer, right? What would we look like? Would our stress rates be lower? Would we be socializing more? Will we just be generally happier? Would we be
Mhm.
eating better? What would life look like? And who knows? Because, I mean, even though we could all pretend like we're getting a stage 4 diagnosis, we could all pretend like we're on our death row. None of us, like not most of us are, right? So,
Yeah.
would life look different? But I think really, like I was just talking about, I think your diet plays a huge role in
I
being
was getting ready
preventative.
to ask you that. I was waiting for you to finish.
I
I'm
do.
sorry.
Yeah, I
You
do.
'cause
I mean,
you're
I
perfect.
fully believe it. Yeah.
So the red meats, the hard
Ooh,
saturated
that one.
fats and
Ooh, that's
huh?
a different topic. Red meats, whether you go vegan or whether you don't, it's like, I
I'm
hate to
not
say
eating
this,
that.
but
I
it's
love
like whether
steaks.
you go black or you never go back. I mean, like, I hate to say this. I mean, but it's like,
You're so bad.
I
Yeah.
mean, shit, like it's like something like that, right? Because there's a lot of people who would say like carbs and meat are the only way to go, right? But
Mhm.
natural meats like
But
hunted
we know
meat
red meat,
versus,
that meat is not healthy, and the
yeah. I
raw
mean,
meat.
red meats, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there. So I don't think that. I think that like staying away from preserved foods, I basically, well,
Exactly.
in my opinion, like stay away from red and green M&Ms, right? Because it's proven that they have carcinogenics in there, right? Red and green food dye is not good for you.
You
It
don't
was
need
out.
anything like that. Yeah, yeah. And to your point, I guess even though people may not like Trump and all of them, but this administration just changed everything with that kind of stuff. You know, I'm tracking certain things with that. And I noticed that in Europe, they don't eat what we eat. They don't accept the products that is sold. And they have certain ingredients that they don't tolerate. And I think they just changed a whole lot of stuff to get rid of these trans fats. And I was telling the guy in the store, I said, everything in your store is not healthy. And he's laughing, but it's real stuff. Sugar, this, that. And the
Yep.
young lady in Trader Joe's, I'm bragging about this soap I like. It says art milk, but when she read everything, she said, you don't want this soap. It has all of this stuff in it. So now I got another soap. It's called Magic Bar Soap and peppermint and all this crazy shit. I don't know anymore.
Yeah,
But
you don't know. I mean, that's the thing. You don't know. And like,
right.
I don't know what politics had it. I don't know if politics had to do with it. I certainly don't, like I do know that there was like I heard on a podcast of the new guy in the FDA. He was like, fuck it. Red and green dyes have been on the plate for 3 years or however many years, and we haven't pulled the plug. Like it's time to pull the plug. So he finally pulled the plug.
No, they've been
Good job.
pulling. I mean, there's certain
You
food
know?
in the store that they can't sell no more and all. And what they're really how they're making it healthy is you can't if you getting any kind of social services and the hospital shifted like an EBT card or whatever that you can't buy certain foods.
Oh, yes. I mean, so it certainly does, politics and, financial stuff, it certainly does play a role in the world of cancer, but that's a different topic for a different show,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
while you're still here, Facts Porcupine, I want to
Yes,
talk.
ma'am.
That's your podcast. And what is your podcast about?
My podcast, when we started out, we were doing independent interviews of people on the streets of New York, all different, all different type of characters, and we based it I have different talking conversations. Like it's just a conversation. We got the more you know. Society's gone amok. People, places, and things on the streets of New York. On the record, that's the political side when I'm doing politics and things. I ran for public office.
Nice.
We talk. We meet people like yourself. We dispel the narrative because anything you hear on my show is out of the horse's mouth. I'm not going to be a podcast. We're not, we're, you know, damn well a donkey is a donkey. Now you may want to think he can identify as a cat, but he's a damn donkey.
Okay.
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 So,
Fair enough.
there's some incredible shows on. Remember when the gay movement was coming through? It was like when it was really trans and everybody coming out. So I have some shows on every aspect of the people that are whether it be queer in that life. We had a gentleman who decided to become a woman, and he cut it off. He did his thing. That's my aunt's friend, and I thought I didn't know who he was, but he looks just like a woman. So he gave me a 4-hour conversation. Then, it's just stuff like that.
Okay,
But
nice.
you're going to have a blockbuster show. Once you get it rolling, you're a lawyer. You can spin off and give this basic common sense advice, which everybody needs because people get ripped off all the time. And, I'm going to be with the mayor tomorrow. I got a press pass. And you got to have a goal here, because your goal, you'll be surprised because once you start growing, your audience is going to expect this. There's a lot of work to do this. You know what I mean? But I had fun because I took off some time from business and stuff. So I was
Yeah,
stressed
nice.
out with bullshit. So yeah, you're going to do good. So you're a
Okay,
lawyer.
well,
You can talk about
I
your
appreciate
health.
you.
You're going to do good. Yes, man. All right. Well, I appreciate you just bringing me up. Try not, when you're doing your thing and you want to bring people up, try to look. Here's how I check out people because a lot of people want to come on my show. I don't like drunks. I'm not cursing. You're not doing that. And if you don't want to tell me your name, why would I bring you up? My name is Reggie Swingy Better. And just, I know you want the engagement, which is going to be great. Keep straight on your point of view, and then you open it up a little bit. But click on if they. I try to bring podcasters up because I was trolled and I've been blocked 4 times saying hello. So jealousy is going to be that, but this just do your thing. Do you do 2 hours or 1 hour? How are you going to do that?
I was gonna do 2 hours, and right now I'm at the 1.5 hour.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not, you can split up your time into talking segments. You know what I mean?
Okay, gotcha.
That's the
Okay.
way I'm rocking. And I'm trying to cover the world map and the US map with downloads. And if you do a show like this one and you immediately don't wait 2 days to upload it because then it'll be like 50. I got 100. And I didn't know I did 856 shows or something like that. I was just doing my thing. And you're gonna kick a booty. Just be careful who you bring up. And the name will, you're gonna do your thing. Cause I enjoy learning and understanding what I gotta do. And you do a lot. You said you was at the casino or something like that the other day.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
living my
so
life.
you're a beast, girl. Yeah. And
I won some money in poker too. Yeah.
you
Oh
did?
yeah. Yeah. Sure, yeah.
You got a good spirit, man. And there was another guy that and listen, I just started, so I'm gonna check how long. My sister was a host on a good show. And yeah, but just hearing you and dealing with all of the medical side of it, you would never know if you didn't say it.
Yeah. Well, good. I appreciate you. I
No?
appreciate you. And I see
All
you got
right.
914 followers. So we all just got some free advice from a podcaster, folks. Hell yeah. All
All
right.
right, babe. Well, thank you so much. And you're always welcome. I'm on periodically. I'll follow you. And I was trying to hit your like so you can get it going.
Cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Awesome.
You're gonna be happy. And you keep doing your thing. And we love you for just you being honest and open about how you're doing because it was helpful for me. And you're a beast. Tell your
All
husband
right.
congratulations too. All right. Thank you.
All right. I appreciate you. Take care.
All right, ma'am. Thank you. I'll step
All right.
down.
All right. So with that, kids, man, I'm pretty stoked. I got a lot of followers on TikTok. I got a lot of engagement here on podcasts. I'm on Podbean Live, but I'm going to be going on a whole bunch of different platforms too. I'm just trying to figure out that stuff. So we just got some free advice from a podcaster. Yay, some free advice. Maybe one day somebody's going to jump on TikTok and give us some free advice too. Because there are a shit ton of influencers. I tried that gig. And so one of the things I was thinking about talking about was low income, because not only does that impact people with cancer, but it impacts our support systems, right? And the people who sup- have somebody that they're living with cancer. And so that has certainly impacted my life, right? So, I was the breadwinner in my house. We bought this big, huge house. I'm thinking I want to make tons of money. I'm not a personal injury lawyer. I didn't make a ton of money, right? But yeah, it impacted me greatly, right? So we bought this brand new house and I love it, but unfortunately we have to sell it. So it's for sale because now I can't work as a lawyer anymore, and my husband is now taking on a new career at the brand new ripe age of 60. He just had his 60th birthday. And so he's taking on a new career so he can take over for us. And, like, he's a man, he's got this, like, and I mean, so would a woman, and so would any other person or, porcupine or whatever, cat, whatever you want to talk about, porcupine. But no, no, seriously. No, but he's got this, right? He's gonna take over as the breadwinner of the house, and we've always shared in that journey, sharing our finances and stuff like that, but really, when and to Porcupine's point, I think his name is Reggie, but, to his point, like, people are going through changes, right? And the shit that we deal with every day is that, we have less income. And I've been looking at people with metastatic breast cancer on social platforms, and, they do get Social Security, and then maybe their cancer goes away. And so now they're disqualified from it. And how does that impact you? I mean, it really does impact you. When I can't go to court, when I can't be in the courtroom anymore, I mean, I'm struggling with that loss, right? I'm struggling with the loss of career that I didn't choose, an involuntary loss of career, right? And I don't know when I'm going to get over that grief, right? But that is what people are dealing with, right? So, how does cancer hit you as a warrior or as a support system? How does it hit you as a service provider, and how can you help people with cancer? That's how you can help, is you can understand, right? You can be empathetic to all the shit that they have to deal with on a regular basis. You're dealing with shit too, right? And you may not be directly impacted by someone with cancer, but I can promise you that you're probably sitting next to somebody on the bus, or sitting next to somebody in a movie theater, or sitting next to somebody in a restaurant who is impacted by cancer, and or is supporting somebody that is living with cancer, because it is so fucking prevalent. Cancer is so prevalent, right? And my last episode, we talked about statistics. In my next episode, we're going to talk about some statistics. I think my next episode, I'm going to have some people on who's dealing with prostate cancer. So I got a couple of people dealing with prostate cancer, and then we're going to go through a journey with my husband about his throat cancer, and some other people with breast cancer. So yeah, definitely got a lot of things coming up. But gosh, yeah. So it impacts our income, right? Maybe if it's only just for a short time, right? Because we have to be out for surgery, or we have to be out for something else. But you know, you we have to deal with that on a regular basis. So I wanted to piggyback and just follow up with something that, and I'm just going to keep on calling him by his name, Facts Porcupine, because I want to, support his YouTube as well. And I'm gonna come back to the income thing too real quick, but first, I wanted to piggyback on his thing, right? We can look up facts, quote, unquote, facts on ChatGPT or Grok or Google, right? ChatGPT and Grok are just sophisticated Googles. They're not anything else, people. I don't know where you think they get their information from, but they just get it from the internet, right? And they get it from people who are feeding it information. You need to learn how AI works, and that's where people are getting their information from, right? There's a bunch of like expert things that I could go onto. I could pay like 125 bucks right now and upload my medical records, and AI is going to read through them, and it's going to give me an opinion. As a lawyer, I could go on and say, "Hey, type me a brief," and it's going to brief whatever I needed to brief, and it's going to pull up some shit, and it's going to quote some case law. It's going to quote law. I have to go through and check every single one of that, because I promise you, people, there are people who have been disbarred by including case law in stuff that they have submitted to an official court that was not true. It was not real case law, because somebody fed it, or whatever, AI system it was using decided to create that law, and it's not real law. And that person didn't do their due diligence. That lawyer didn't do their due diligence, and ended up getting disbarred because they submitted stuff that's not real law. So, what I want to piggyback on, like Fax Porcupine was talking about, right? As a lawyer, I can find an argument for this side and that side. Almost always, I can find a lawyer. I mean, I can find an argument on both sides, right? Because a good lawyer should be able to do that. So, I should be able to cross examine you or direct examine you on bad things and the good things, right? I should be able to write a brief that talks about the good things and the bad things. And like Fax Porcupine was talking about, right? It's sometimes it's just common sense, sometimes it's logic, but that's what law school teaches us. That's what law school teaches us, right? Is that I should that's my job, right? So and part of this is I'm going to push back. I didn't push back on him because he was talking about Trump, and I was going to push back on him because it was short and brief, and we kept it short and brief. But there's certain people that are going to come on here and they're going to say, "Well, God's going to do this and God's going to do that," or some people are going to say, "God's not going to do this," or "There is no God," or "There isn't any," and I'm going to challenge you. Okay, I'm going to challenge you moving forward to consider both aspects of that because I'm not going to take a side. I don't take a side as a lawyer. It's just bad for business, right? I'm going to take a side if you're my client for sure. And as my client, I should be able to understand what's the good part of your case and the bad part of your case. And when you're going through Google, when you're going through Chat GPT, when you're going through Grok, you need it to explain to you where it got that information from and how it found that information. And is that information true, right? Like apricot seeds. I could go and I can find a website. I could find, who knows, maybe I could find somebody, some podcasts, maybe who knows what I can find. I could probably find a TV show about all these things, these lovely things, maybe that, and I'm sorry, mom, but I'm still stuck on the fucking apricot seeds. Okay, but I could find something about apricot seeds, right? I could probably find something good. I could find something that says, hey, it's going to fix your cancer or it's going to prevent you from having cancer. And then I can go on the FDA website and I can find something that says, it's all I know is it's toxic, right? And then there might be something down the middle, right? It's toxic and therefore it kills cancer. Hmm. And maybe science will come up with that, right? But when you're using Google, when you're using Grok, when you're using Chat GPT, you need to challenge it. You need to say, really? Okay, so that's what you're telling me. Now, what are the opposite stories? And give me your resources. Tell me, where you find that information. Is it from faxporcupine.com? Because he just said he doesn't know it all, right? But maybe he put a website out there that says, hell yeah, porcupines are going to cure cancer. Porcupines, I mean, I don't know. Like but that's the ridiculous shit that we deal with on a day to day basis. Okay. And we need to be smart when we're going and getting our information. We need to be smart about what we're listening to, what we're putting out into the world, right? And say, is this shit true? Where is it coming from? Is there science to support it? And by the way, if I'm going to burden Tammy or any other cancer patient out there with my bullshit, telling them that they should believe in this or they should do this, that's how you can help Vax Porcupine. If you're going to tell somebody that they should do this or that they should believe in something, then why don't you help them by doing the research, right? Yeah, give me the facts. Okay, so sure, you want me to take this apricot seed. Cool. I'm willing to engage in that conversation all day long. I'm going to sit at a restaurant with you and I'm going to have a glass of bourbon and I'm going to talk about all of the alternatives with you. Okay? But I want to know where you got your information from. Cuz I don't want to have to sit there when I'm talking to you and be googling it, and go, "Well, shit, I just looked this up real quick and it's clear as day. Toxic." You know? No scientific basis for this, right? I am not by any means faulting my mom. I love her to death. She's like super fucking cool. And one day I hope she's going to be on this podcast. We didn't start off with the greatest relationship in this world, but I think cancer really brought us together. And that's the one thing I can say about cancer. One of the positive things I can say about cancer is that it really brought us together, not only with my dad's cancer, but now with my cancer. And my mom also had cancer, by the way, too. But We'll talk about that a different day. But I mean, I'll sit around and talk with you all day long about alternatives, about all the natural things we can do. But do me a favor and do a little bit of research on it, right? I don't expect my mom to do the research, right? She's 78 years old. She can't see a fucking thing, right? She's got this disease in her eyes, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for her, but so she hears it on TikTok and she hears it on, Facebook. And then she goes to this store, this lady who's running her business and trying to run this, small business and just make money, right? And so she tells my mom, hey, eat these apricot seeds and you're not going to have cancer, and give these apricot seeds to your daughter. Well, I'm going to push my mom to start pushing back at those people, right? If you're gonna tell me this bullshit, right? If you're gonna sell this shit in your store and you're gonna deliver this to me, then you need to be able to tell me something that supports this. Tell me, like in your little advertisement on the table, right? What scientific basis supports this? If you're gonna sell me these $25 apricot seeds, why should I take them? And you should be able to know that. Yeah. Otherwise, you shouldn't be able to sell it. And mom, you shouldn't be buying it. Because I promise you, she gave that small business $50, right? And I gave her back her apricot seeds. I mean, I wanted to, but I had to do the research, right? And then I figured out it doesn't work, right? And so I can't tell my mom, no, don't do that, right? If she wants to do that, she can. But like push back on everything. Push back on AI because it's smart. It's smarter than you, I'm pretty sure, right? But realize that it's been being fed by small business owners, by big pharma, by, the people in politics who believe one way or another, right? And so if that's what's informing AI, that's the information you're going to get fed. And if that's what you're relying on, well, then you need to figure out if what it's relying on is what you can rely on. So then you need to realize that maybe AI was just fed, or ChatGPT or Grok was just fed this information from that small business owner. So now Grok is telling people to go eat apricot seeds, right? But if you pushed back on Grok, and you can, that's what you do to make sure that you get good AI, to make sure you get a good brief, to make sure you get a good argument. You ask it then, hey, okay, so you said apricot seeds are good, AI, Grok. Now tell me where you got that information from. Now tell me the bad sides and the pros and cons of these apricot seeds, right? So tell me, tell me more, right? Push back and do your due diligence. So if you're going to come and give me apricot seeds, I know I'm repeating myself, all right? But give me some more information because I'll talk to you all day long about it, right? And we're going to talk about more about alternatives because that's 5 podcasts in and of itself. And I know, and I have to do more research on it. And I have a couple good guests that I really want to have come on in the future about alternatives. And then when we're talking about that, we really also have to talk about how do alternatives impact each different cancer. Again, because, like I was taking turmeric, and turmeric, yeah, has its pros and cons, right? It's generally good for inflammation, right? But it can also, be bad for me. It's also can be bad for your liver, right? And again, I want to enjoy this bourbon. And so how can I still enjoy the bourbon without taking other things that impact my liver, right? So everything that I'm doing, I'm looking at that going, is this impacting my liver in a positive or negative way? Right? And that's gonna be different for everyone. So I could take that supplement. I could take, there's certain supplements I could take instead of taking big pharma meds. I could take certain supplements for my mental health. But if I do that, there's certain supplements that cause estrogen. So I'm estrogen positive breast cancer. So I shouldn't take that, right? So now my body has to fight even harder. It's producing from one supplement, and then the meds are fighting the estrogen. So now, how much harder am I making my body work, right? And then I wonder why I need a nap. So every single thing that I take, every supplement that I take, I run it past a pharmacist and I say, "Hey, is this good for me? Is it going to go against my meds? And is it going to go, is it going to increase my hormones that my body my meds now have to fight against, right? So push back on pharma, push back on your medical providers, push back on whomever, push back on the lady who owns a small business. I want to talk one last thing because I did put this in, maybe why, something I was going to talk about here as far as shit we deal with on a regular basis. And my husband just started a new business and he's starting to sell life insurance. Super stoked for him. He's really excited. But, he went and did a whole bunch of research on YouTube about what that looks like and how much money you can make and what companies are scams and what companies aren't scams. And again, it's just feeding through the bullshit, feeding through the good, feeding through the bad. You are you get to judge the credibility of every witness like a judge, right? So judges get to judge the credibility of every witness that's on the stand, right? And as a lawyer, I'm going to present one expert, and the lawyer on the other side is going to present another expert, and they're going to say the exact opposite things, right? Because that's how court cases go. If we didn't have arguments on either side, then we couldn't really have a court case because it would be frivolous or groundless, and there'd be a whole bunch of ethical issues with that, right? So we have experts on either side that are going to say whatever they want. And now the judge has to determine which expert it finds more credible, right? That's your job. That's your job in your life. So now you have cancer, or you're sitting in the hospital room with your buddy who has cancer, or your sister who has cancer, or your mom who has cancer, and you have to listen to what that doctor says. And you have to ask the right questions. That's a first. And then you say, shit, I'm not just going to believe this doctor says. I'm going to go talk to another doctor. And now two different doctors tell you two different things. What are you going to do? You have to assess their credibility, right? You have to assess who you believe more or who do you feel better with. And then you got to do your own research. So, man, it's just like it's overwhelming, right? And that's what we're dealing with in life, right? Is that a real photo of Trump or is that fake? Does Trump really play football? Did he really play in the Super Bowl? Or is that just fake AI? You know? Remember all that stuff? Remember those photos that were going on with Biden? And it was like everyone was sitting next to Biden and it's like, oh, and you're like, wow, oh my God, he met the president. That's fucking cool. No, that's AI, you know? Or it was really good wax museum, they went to. So that's your job is to now to assess the new world we live in. And so I wanted to, sorry, I keep on deviating, but I want to talk about real quick, just starting your own business. People think starting your own business is just this great, wonderful thing. It's tough, right? I'm not doing podcasts because I want to make money on it. Well, eventually I do want to make money on it, believe me, because I need money. But, right now I'm not doing it. I'm just starting up just to kind of act as a support group for everyone. But, if I want to start a business, then I have to invest money and I have to invest time. And how much time and how much money do you have? My husband is currently starting a business because he's a broker. So even though he works for a company, that company only gives him training and leads. He has to buy the leads, right? And he has to put his time into the training. He has to put in his time into all the licenses. And then he has people that are also doing the same thing. And they're like, well, what? You want me to, spend 8 hours a day for this? What? You want me to invest $1,500 for these leads so I know who to call to sell the insurance to? Well, yeah, that's what starting a new business is, right? That's what starting a new job is. Oh, that's what starting a new life with cancer is. It's finding and figuring something new. It's taking those small steps, figuring out what skills you need, what desires you have, right? To create your goal of starting that business, right? So it's all this whole full circle thing, right? And then when you do it, you're going to have to balance your life and your business together. So social media influencers, man, I thought like, oh my God, I'm just going to order these fucking foot pads and I'm going to give them a 5-star review. And then they're going to work and I'm going to go back on TikTok and I'm going to sell them to the next fucking idiot. Basically, that's how it goes. Yep. I was duped. Many more people we duped. And I thought I was gonna be the social media influencer because on TikTok, I'm hearing all day long about these people who are making, $10,000 a day just selling shit on social media. So I go on there and I get my seller's thing and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna be, like it's gonna replace my income from being a trial lawyer." No, it's not because I had to pay well, first of all, I had to pay a bunch of money for the stuff that I was supposed to review, so then I have the investment. I really don't have that money to invest, but I did it anyways, and half the shit I bought, I would never give a five-star review, and I have integrity, so now I'm not gonna go and review that stuff and sell it to the next asshole. So I had to throw it in the garbage, and, I'm not calling you an asshole, sorry. I didn't mean to call you an asshole. But, really, I mean, so I thought social media influencer, yeah, that's gonna be my next gig. And then I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna be a YouTuber," and then I hated the way I looked on YouTube, and I hated going through all the editing because the editing takes forever, right? But you hear about all these people who get 1,000,000 views, and then they're making all this money. Well, how much time do you think they're spending? How much money do you think they're investing in this stuff? How much money do you think it costs to go crash a convertible into a brick wall? Well, they took chances, people, and they had to buy that convertible. I know now they have 1,000,000 views, but he's got a fucking concussion. He's got $100,000, right? I'm talking about the YouTuber, and he's out of a convertible, but he made a whole bunch of money on it. I mean, I don't know if that's a risk you're willing to take. Good for you, you know? But as cancer patients and as people supporting people with cancer, we now have to find maybe a new career. And I'm telling you, small business, it's not easy. I've had multiple small businesses. I've owned rentals. I've had a nonprofit. I've had 2 law firms. I had a supervised parenting time agency, not all of which were successful, all of which cost me money, took me time, and, some were profitable, some were not, right? Uh, But that's what you have to decide. I just had one person, Gummy. Hey, Gummy, just joined in, and I got only like 6 minutes left. I wanted to figure out if Gummy has anything to talk to us about and welcome her. And I just want to say so much on TikTok. I've had tons of people engaging, listening to me live, no one that I could see and next time I need to do this on my computer, but no one that I've seen that has commented or really engaged with me on TikTok. So if I missed anything, I really do apologize. But thanks so much for everyone who's joined on TikTok. And then I just got somebody else. I doc fail. Hmm. That's an interesting name. Has also joined the live studio. So if you guys have anything to say, I'm certainly willing to engage for a few more minutes and just say, "Hey," but, in the meantime, I'm just saying, "Hey," one, if you're looking at Social Security, as a new income, like, you can certainly go on Social Security and you can get for you and your partner, you can get, what you would get in Social Security disability and what you will get when you actually literally retire, and those numbers are free. You just gotta input your information on the Social Security website, and it will give you that information. Like, for me, I'm almost capped out on Social Security because I've worked ever since I was 12 years old. And so I've put in a lot of money into Social Security, right? But I'm still only going to get like 2,300 bucks a month, right? So could I go and work a part-time job and make more than that? Maybe, it just depends, and that depends again on my barriers and my desire, my skill set. So those other two people did log off, but thanks for joining real quickly. But you can do whatever you set your mind to. Again, it's, engaging in behavior change and taking a detour from the path of least resistance. I like that. It's really taking a detour from your comfort zone. That's what change is, right? You're in a comfort zone. And if you want to change, if you need to do something different, that's hard, but you need to engage in it. So I feel like I've giggled plenty. And I wish there was somebody on here who could just tell me a joke that would make you laugh. So I can't come up with anything else because I'm pretty tired. So I'm gonna tell you my husband's favorite joke. and I know he stole it from somebody, but it's funny, and it's rude, and it's crude, but how do you make beaver jerky tickle it? Alright, think about that, folks. Think about that. So and it should make you laugh, yeah, it's funny. Alright, so with that, I just wanna say thank you for joining. Thank you for the guest. Thank you, Fax Porcupine, and thank you, Melissa Wright, for being my guest. Thanks to everyone else who joined in. I am going to be doing this every Tuesday, and I'm gonna make sure I have things to talk about, right? And if that doesn't work out, then I'll bring it down to every other Tuesday or something. But I'm hoping that I'm gonna get a lot of people to chime in and kind of just engage in this conversation so we can have some, good things to talk about. And but also I'm gonna be releasing podcasts also otherwise with some other guest. And so sometimes I'll just have the guest on with us during these live podcasts. Somebody just sent me a message, so I just wanted to review it real quick. Oh, and that was just Melissa saying goodbye. Thanks. Yeah, so my podcast is Cancer, Smiles, and Sarcasm. I'm gonna be, like, putting on I'm gonna be on YouTube and Podbean, and, I'm on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, all those things, so I hope that you can listen in and join me on these live ventures. I'm also on TikTok. Again, I'm the Ragdoll Warrior. I'm perfectly suited for all the ways that my body looks because of my double mastectomy and the surgeries that I've had, and the way that I feel, and the way that I feel like cancer just drags you across the ground. For those people on Podbean podcast, you can't see me, but I'm just bump, bada bump, bada bump, bada bump, right? But yeah, so ragdolls just tossed around, but they have a good life because they're loved by somebody, right? And I certainly have supports and people who love me, and we can't make it through our cancer journeys, whether it be as supports or as people battling the cancer. We certainly can't make that without our loved ones and without having somebody to join us on this journey. So I hope that tonight you go and say, I love you to somebody. Thank you to somebody for being that support for you, or thank you to somebody for walking through this journey and still being able to smile at you and to have a drink with you or whatever it might be, because sometimes that's the little goal, right? And sometimes that's it. Take care. You guys have a great night. Adios, muchachos.